What is happening, guys? Welcome back to me and a very, very dusty T5. So workshop is dusty as anything. I've been sanding the kitchen up that I've built for a home, and MDF dust is absolutely everywhere. So we need to get the van outside and clean that in a little bit. You may notice, and I mentioned in another video, that we've got rid of the Caravelle front bumper and gone back to the commercial front bumper. Caravelle headlights are there. Caravelle bumper is down the bottom. I never really wanted to do that. I wanted a commercial front end, so we've gone back to it. I was kidding myself that the Caravelle looked good. Don't wrong, it does look good. It really looks good. But I wanted, there's something about the commercial front end when that arch gap is closed up that just looks absolutely trick. And that arch gap is going to be being closed up at the end of the week. On Friday, I'm travelling over to the guys at Lowdown Transporters who are going to be fitting the solo air suspension along with the airlift 3H management system, which we'll explain all about that when we're fitting that one. But we need to get the van drivable, and at the moment we've got no seat, no dash. Don't even need the dash to drive it. We've got no seat, so we need to sort it out and make it half decent to drive a bit of distance. So this video is going to be tying a few loose ends up and getting the van so that we can drive it. I've also started running the electric cables for the camper conversion. And speaking of the camper conversion, let's explain a little bit about the layout that we're going for, where everything's going to go. I don't think I've spoken about any of the interior of the van other than carpeting and things like that. So what we're going to be going for is a standard side unit for a T5. Low unit here, tall unit here, plenty of storage, fridge, hob, sink on the side. Now I developed and drew or designed a set of units quite a few years ago. We've made a few sets, sold a few sets. They're all scribed and ready to go in the van. I'm going to make a few tweaks to this one. Me and Abby have discussed it and we want to make a few changes. So that'll be a little sort of part of this build that we'll do, a full how I build them. Now, mine are, if you like, a bespoke piece of joinery. They're not a piece of van furniture. Arts class them as a piece of joinery because they're quite involved and they're not flat pack. Put it away. Can't stand flat pack. So these are going to be a set of bespoke cupboards down this side. Colours still to be decided. I can't decide on what to do with those just yet. In the last van, we had a rock and roll bed, but it wasn't actually a rock and roll bed. It was two timber frames screwed together with wheels and draw runners and all sorts of things. That worked really well. I didn't want to go wasting the money on a metal one with seat belts and things because we didn't need it. We didn't need to carry people in the back. It was literally for me and Abby to go away, so we never bothered. Worked well, did what it needed to do, but friends that have got rock and roll beds as well, and I've sat in their vans, they're very, very uncomfortable to sit on. Sleeping on, great. Sitting on in the day, horrible to sit on. So what we've decided we're going to go for is an L-shaped seating configuration that then pulls out into a bed. We're going to be making all of that from scratch as well. I've got contact to get the poplar lightweight plywood, and then we'll be hand laminating it all, edging it all. I'm quite looking forward to getting back to that. Joinery was my background, which was part of the old head that we had a problem with, but I'm actually looking forward to building that. Should be fun. This box that's going to be at the front here for where the seats are is where all the batteries and everything are going to go. Which leads us quite nicely to all the cables that I've already put in. So what we have is, we can sort this mess out. You've got a red and a black there that go up the C-pillar along the roof and then come out here. Now everything's in conduit and everything's got rubber grommets everywhere to stop any chafing and rubbing. They then go down the A-pillar through two holes in the fire bulkhead out to where the battery is, and they'll link to the battery, and they will be the charging feed from the alternator that will then go through there to charge the battery that's in here whilst you're driving. At the same time, coming in, we've got this blue, which is Arctic 240 volt cable, which goes to the back corner there, because we're going to, when we convert to the tailgate, we're going to put a hinged panel from Transport HQ on and have the electric hookup behind that panel. So then the power comes in when you're on hookup, the charger works and it charges your battery down here. Then we've got these three here that go off to the other side. So you've got positive and negative for the battery, and then a 240 volt as well, which lead over to this side and give us power to this side of the van and to the units. We're going to have one 12 volt fuse board that side and one 12 volt fuse board this side, just to power both sides of the van instead of having to have loads and loads of cables. All we've done is just brought those across and we've got the power both sides of the van. There's also going to be a solar panel on the roof, and the cables will come down the back there and along and into a solar charge controller that's going to all be housed within this part of the seating here. Because in my last van, it was all designed so that the whole interior could completely be taken out of the van if you needed a van. So everything was mounted into the walls, and it worked really, really well. But it made any maintenance or anything an absolute pain. So in the last one, the battery, the 240 volt and the 212 volt fuse board were all under the driver's seat, which was neat, compact, whatever. But if the fuse went, you had to try and access the fuse box from the front, which couldn't quite get access to because the opening wasn't big enough. The floor goes up, the seat goes, it was a nightmare. So I want it all easily accessible where we can get to it. Lighting is still to be decided. I can't decide what we're going to do. There's going to be various USB points over the vehicle, 240 volt over the vehicle for charging laptops, etc. There is going to be an inverter in it as well. And I want to say a massive thank you to Beyond Batteries for doing me a great deal on the electrics kit for this. I've got Renogy solar panel, solar and charge controller, a Beyond Batteries inverter, and we've gone for a Beyond Batteries 100 amp hour lithium battery, LiFePO4, I don't know what they are. Reason being, lithium or AGM and lead acid, which are the normal heavy, if you like, leisure batteries, you only have 50% depth of discharge. So you've got 100 amp hour battery, only 50%, 50 amps are usable. Whereas on a lithium battery, and I don't know the exact stats, but it's something like 98% is usable power. So 100 amp hours, 98 amp hours are actually usable. So basically for the same size package, you're getting twice the amount of power, although they are a little bit more expensive. But every other van I've ever built, including the Crafter that we lived in, scrimped is a wrong word. I've not spent the money on the parts that are important, which are the electrics. I cannot stress enough that spending the money on the correct electrics is the thing to do. So this van, we're putting the right electrics in so that we won't ever have a problem down the line. And then the Crafter, I was forever, I ended up having to add an extra battery and alter this and alter that. Spend the money on the good electrical stuff and you will not regret it. So that's the plan with the camper interior and the electrics. There'll be more coming on with all of this lot as we get on with it. I ain't really filmed putting these cables in because it's me putting cables in. Running them across the floor. Hopefully whoever's watching this is going to watch the whole series before they go hacking away or putting things in the van, because there's quite a few things I've done that I really shouldn't have done. Main one being that we needed to get power from one side of the van to the other. And where are we? Just here, where in front of the rear arch, there's one piece of, I think it was about 150 or 200 mil piece of plywood that's bonded down to the floor there. I've gone in with a saw and I've cut about 40 mil off of the edge of the piece of wood, which is then given us a nice channel to get, which is all in conduit, to get our cables down. And I've just used some, it's DPM tape, because it's nice and wide. So the cables then from one side to the other, just make sure you remember when you screw your floor down where your cables are. Another thing that I've done as well, which I forgot to mention, we've got this little cable here, which goes along the floor and off up under the dashboard, and that is going to be a switch that's under the dashboard so that the head unit, you flick it onto one, if it's on one, the head unit works as you driving the van, so on and off with the ignition. 0 in the middle, it's just off, won't work at all. 2, it's all running off the leisure battery, so when you're parked up on a campsite, you can flick the switch on, have the radio on in the morning, and you're working off the leisure battery, which is being charged from the sun, and you're not draining your starter battery, because this is going to have an amp and a sub and all sorts in it. So we don't want to go pulling too much power, draining that battery, meaning that we can't drive off in the morning. So that's a little update on what we've done and where we've been or whatever. I've got another bit of wiring to put in a little bit, which is the amp wiring, but I'm waiting for that to be delivered. DPD should be here at some point today with that. What we're going to do is get the curtains fitted to these windows, because when we go to Transport HQ, we're going to be sleeping in the van. We have a little boys camp out in their workshop. So Transport HQ, curtains to fit to that rear window and to that window as well. I've also gone for the tailgate, but we've not got a tailgate yet. So let's get on and get these fitted and then see what else we can come up with doing. curtains are in, those ones are in, and those ones are in. Now, they are not a 5-minute job, and they can be a bit of a pain. These ones are quite a lot easier than the other ones are fitted because the ends of the rails are bent somewhere near to the shape of the van. You do have to manipulate them a little bit more, but it's more than doable. I used a 2.5mm drill bit to drill into the van to screw them down. Make sure you've got a few of them because inevitably you are going to snap some, as I did. The carpet grabs them, all sorts of stuff. You need to use sharp ones as well because sharp ones tend to cut through the carpet instead of gripping the carpet. But yeah, they're done. They're on. Feed the curtain into the bottom rail first, screw the bottom rail down. Then I screwed the top rail up in the middle screw, then fed the curtain onto the end. Make sure you put the end caps on as well. Screw the top back, job done. And then you put the 2 poppers onto the side, just there. But they're on and done. So massive thank you to Transport HQ for supplying me with those. If you're going to order anything from Transport HQ, use the code CHAMBERS5 to get yourself 5% off your order. Next things to sort out are the cable for the amp turned up, the amp wiring kit turned up. So we've run it from where the battery's going to be in this groove that we've got in the floor to where the amp's going to go under the seat. We've then ran the blue remote wire following the loom up to, well, it's not going to the head unit, it'll go to the switch that's going to be down under the steering column. And then that other blue line just there is the RCA, which is the sound signal from the back of the stereo that is run separately away from any power, because I'm pretty sure, I've not done it for a while, but I'm pretty sure you used to have to anyway, that you're not supposed to run the speaker cable or RCA cables with power because it interferes and you get a weird noise through your speakers if you do that. They got done and laid in, which wasn't a massive job, and now they're in. The only other thing that we're going to have to bring through the cab, unless I've forgotten something, is the heater, which is super simple because there's already a grommet in the floor and we can pull it through nice and easy, and hopefully we'll be doing that next week. So I've got the rubber floor mat on the floor down here, and we've just gone around with a brush and some interior cleaner just to get the worst of the dirt and the mud off it because it was absolutely filthy. It's clean, it's a hell of a lot cleaner than it was. If you were leaving it in the van and it was going to be on show, you might not be too happy with it, but we're going to be putting one of Transport HQ's carpet sets or carpets over the top. So I'm now going to just chuck this in the van, get a seat bolted in, put the stereo all back together, and then we'll start loading up some goodies ready for Friday. So for when we go and fit the air ride, I need to take the door card with me on the driver's door because that's where the controller's going to mount. So we figured, let's chuck them on. No better place to transport them than the place they're supposed to be. And look, so good on the van. All I've done is put the 2 top screws and the 3 top screws in. There's no fixings in the middle. The clips and everything aren't in there. So they're super easy to remove and then easy to refit again. But so worth it. When we've got all that lower dash in, the carpet in there, oh, it's going to look so good. But we've got those in. The next thing we need to do is put all the scuttle area and everything back together because I removed it all to get in to access where we want the battery cables to run. So let me show you those. So I removed the battery and removed this tray. I need to hoover it, actually, there's a swarf in there. But this bottom hole here is a factory hole that the bung is already there. These cables are a bit too tight and close to the metalwork in it, so I've drilled another hole, and the black is windscreen, the primer that we use for the windows, get my words out. So that is them, obviously red, positive, that one is black, is the negative. We've put the fuse for it up here, so that cable will come into that side of the fuse, and then there'll be another cable come out of that side of the fuse through this other bung here, which will then go off to the positive side of the battery, and then the negative just goes straight through the bung and will go to the negative side of the battery. And I've done it this way so that this panel which you need to remove to be able to access suspension and things, can be removed without having to disconnect, because you can get it out when the battery's in, without having to disconnect all of this lot. It just makes life easier doing it the way that we've done it. So chuck them panels back in, chuck the scuttle back on, chuck the wipers back on, number plate on, and then we'll start loading the stuff up. Front end is all back together, wipers are back on, everything's on and working, and I have been and loaded up all of the goodies that we've got. So I bought 2 new drive shafts because the driver's side one is clicking, so we might as well, for the sake of it, and what we're doing to the van, we'll change both drive shafts, gone for Melee, because they are one of the better sort of OEM equivalents. You got Solo air suspension struts and bags in that box. We've got Moog have very kindly, thank you very much, for supplying me with some lower arms and some new ball joints, because the rubbers in the ones that are on it have gone. Solo drop links are at the back. Solo compressors, 2 silent compressors, and a Solo tank just there as well. So massive thank you to Solo and Transport HQ for working with me on this. Just said earlier in the video, if you're going to use, or when you're going to order something from them, use the code Chambers5 to get yourself 5% off. So the van is back roadworthy, drivable, and is now ready for us to take the trip over to the guys at Lowdown Transporters, which will be the next episode. So hope you've enjoyed this bit of a little extra episode midweek. Next episode, hopefully, see that getting bagged and you see the final result. Right, until next time, guys, enjoy.